The Beast incarnate is no more. Brock Lesnar, the man who has terrorized WWE for over 2 decades, the conquering machine who has broken legends and shattered dreams, just got destroyed in a way that nobody saw coming. And when I say destroyed, I don't mean he lost a match. I mean his aura, his mystique, his entire legacy just got dismantled by 2 absolute monsters who showed the wrestling world that even the most unstoppable force can be brought to his knees. What happened backstage after this assault will make your blood boil, and the image of Brock Lesnar laying motionless while his career flashed before his eyes is something that will haunt WWE forever. If you can't believe what you're hearing right now, wait until you hear the full story. Before I break down every devastating detail of this attack, hit that subscribe button because we're about to expose the conspiracy that led to this moment, the backstage politics that made it possible, and the shocking reason why WWE allowed their most valuable weapon to be sacrificed like this. This is the beginning of the end for an era, and you need to hear everything. Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker just committed career homicide on live television, and the entire WWE locker room watched in horror as the Beast was reduced to nothing more than a broken man gasping for air. Let me paint you the picture of what went down, and trust me, every second of this was calculated, brutal, and designed to send one clear message: there's a new breed taking over, and legends need to step aside or get crushed. It started innocently enough. Brock Lesnar was scheduled for a standard interview segment, the kind of thing he's done 1,000 times. He walks out with that cocky smirk, the championship mentality still radiating from every pore even though he wasn't holding gold at that moment. Paul Heyman wasn't by his side, which should have been the first red flag, but we'll get to that betrayal later. Brock grabbed the microphone and started doing what he does best, intimidating everyone in the building with just his presence. He talked about his legacy, about how he's conquered everyone put in front of him, about how there's nobody left on the roster who can challenge the Beast. And that's when the lights went out. When they came back on, Bronson Reed was standing on the entrance ramp, and Bron Breakker emerged from the crowd behind Lesnar. The trap was set, and Brock had no idea he was about to experience the most humiliating night of his career. Reed started walking toward the ring with that dead-eyed stare he's become famous for, the look of a man who genuinely doesn't care about consequences. Breakker was already in the ring, circling Lesnar like a predator who finally cornered his prey. Brock turned around and saw Breakker first. You could see it in his eyes, not fear, because Brock Lesnar doesn't know fear but recognition. Recognition that he was in serious danger. He took off his shirt, ready to fight his way out like he always does, ready to F5 anyone who got close. But here's the thing about fighting 2 apex predators at once: you can't watch both of them at the same time. Reed slid into the ring behind Lesnar, and before Brock could fully turn around, a massive forearm smashed into the back of his head. Lesnar stumbled forward, right into a clothesline from Breakker that nearly decapitated him. And just like that, the Beast was on the mat, and the systematic destruction began. What followed was not a fight. It was an execution. Reed and Breakker worked together with frightening chemistry, taking turns demolishing Lesnar with strikes, suplexes, and power moves that would have hospitalized normal human beings. Every time Brock tried to get up, one of them would hit him with something devastating. Reed hit a tsunami splash from the top rope that made the entire ring shake. Breakker followed up with a Frankensteiner that snapped Lesnar's neck back at a sickening angle. Then came the spears, not 1, not 2, but 3 consecutive spears from Breakker while Reed held Lesnar up. The crowd didn't know how to react. Some were cheering because they've waited years to see Brock Lesnar get his comeuppance. Others were sitting in stunned silence, watching a wrestling god being murdered in the middle of the ring. Security didn't come out. Referees didn't try to stop it. Management let it happen, and that's the part that should terrify every WWE fan watching this. After what felt like an eternity but was probably 5 minutes of non-stop brutality, Reed and Breakker stood over Lesnar's motionless body. They didn't celebrate. They didn't cut a promo. They just stared down at the destruction they'd caused, sending a message louder than any words could convey. Then Reed climbed to the top rope one final time and hit another tsunami splash, this time with Breakker adding extra weight by jumping and landing on Reed's back mid-splash, driving all their combined force onto Lesnar's already destroyed body. The sound of Brock's ribs cracking echoed through the arena. EMTs finally rushed out, but the damage was done. Lesnar wasn't moving. His eyes were open but unfocused, staring at nothing. This wasn't selling. This wasn't playing up an injury for dramatic effect. This was a man who just got broken in every sense of the word. But here's where the story gets even darker, and this is where you need to pay close attention because the conspiracy runs deep. Why wasn't Paul Heyman there? Why did security take so long to respond? Why did Triple H and other WWE officials stay backstage while their biggest attraction was being destroyed? The answer will make you question everything you think you know about WWE's current direction. According to multiple sources backstage, this attack was greenlit by the highest levels of WWE management. Not the attack itself necessarily, but the humbling of Brock Lesnar. The company has been trying to transition into a new era, building new stars, creating fresh matchups, and attracting a younger audience. But every time Brock shows up, he overshadows everyone. He demands seven-figure paydays for part-time appearances. He refuses to put over younger talent in meaningful ways. He's become a financial and creative burden that WWE needed to address. Enter Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker, two monsters who represent WWE's future. Reed has been destroying everyone in his path since moving to the main roster, but he's hit a glass ceiling because veterans keep getting pushed ahead of him. Breakker is second-generation royalty, with his uncle being Rick Steiner and his father being Scott Steiner, and he's been positioned as the next big thing since the moment he debuted. But how do you truly elevate these two into superstar status? You feed them the biggest name in the industry. The plan was simple but brutal: arrange circumstances where Reed and Breakker could deliver a beatdown so severe that it accomplishes three things simultaneously. 1. It humbles Brock Lesnar and reduces his backstage leverage by damaging his aura of invincibility. 2. It instantly elevates Reed and Breakker to main event status by having them do what nobody else has done: completely destroy the beast. 3. It sends a message to every part-timer and legend that the old guard's time is over, and if they don't adapt, they'll be next. Paul Heyman's absence wasn't accidental. He was told to stay backstage. Security's delayed response wasn't incompetence. They were instructed to give Reed and Breakker enough time to complete their mission. The shocked faces of commentators weren't scripted surprise. They genuinely didn't know this was going to be this brutal, because WWE wanted authentic reactions to make the moment feel more real. Now let's talk about what this means for Brock Lesnar's future. The man is 47 years old, has accomplished everything in professional wrestling multiple times over, and has made enough money to live comfortably for several lifetimes. After tonight, does he even want to come back? More importantly, will WWE even want him back on his terms? The heartbreaking reality is that Brock might have just worked his last match without knowing it. The physical damage from this attack, even though professional wrestling is predetermined, was real. Those splashes broke ribs. Those suplexes compressed his spine. That Frankensteiner could have legitimately injured his neck. At his age, recovering from this level of physical trauma takes months, not weeks. And in those months, WWE will continue building Reed and Breakker as unstoppable monsters, potentially giving them championship reigns and establishing them as the new pillars of the company. When Brock heals and decides he wants to return, he might find that WWE doesn't need him anymore. They'll have successfully transitioned to their new era, with new stars drawing comparable ratings and revenue. Brock's massive payday demands suddenly become unjustifiable when younger, cheaper talent are filling arenas and moving merchandise. The company that Brock helped rebuild after the Attitude Era just used him as a sacrifice to build their next generation. The psychological impact might be even worse than the physical damage. Brock Lesnar's entire identity is built on being the most dangerous man in any room. He's the UFC heavyweight champion who crossed over to WWE and dominated. He's the freak athlete who can execute standing shooting star presses despite weighing 290 pounds. He's the conqueror who ended The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. His reputation is everything, and in one night, that reputation got shattered. How does Brock look at himself in the mirror after this? How does he walk into a WWE locker room again knowing that everyone saw him get ragdolled by two guys who weren't even in the company 5 years ago? The mental warfare is just as destructive as the physical assault, and WWE knows this. They didn't just want to beat Brock Lesnar. They wanted to break his spirit and remove him as an obstacle to their future plans. Let's address the elephant in the room. Some of you are probably thinking this is all a work, that Brock will return in a few weeks for revenge, and we'll get a big money match at the next premium live event. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is all part of a larger storyline designed to create exactly the kind of buzz we're talking about right now. But consider this: the most effective stories in wrestling are the ones rooted in reality, and the reality is that everything I've described about WWE wanting to transition away from part-timers and elevate younger stars is absolutely true. Whether Brock comes back or not, whether this leads to revenge matches or retirement, the damage to his legacy is already done. Future fans discovering WWE will see clips of Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker destroying Brock Lesnar, and that image will live forever. It doesn't matter what he accomplished before. The most recent impression is what sticks, and right now, that impression is of a broken man who couldn't defend himself against the new generation. If you've watched this far, you understand that we just witnessed something significant. Make sure you're subscribed to Ring Rumble, because we're going to be covering every development in this story as it unfolds. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Do you think Brock will return for revenge, or is this the end of his WWE career? Share this video with everyone who needs to know what happened, because mainstream media isn't going to tell you the real story behind this attack. The throne of WWE has been violently overthrown. The beast incarnate has been slain by two monsters who represent everything WWE wants to be moving forward. And somewhere, in a medical facility, Brock Lesnar is lying in a hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the empire he helped build just discarded him like yesterday's news. This is professional wrestling at its most brutal, most political, and most heartbreaking. The old era is over. The new reign of terror has just begun. And none of us will ever forget the night that Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker left Brock Lesnar broken.